Is this the return of DPS heroes? Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. I am Stylosa. Alright, you guys know there is a load of changes on the PTR, but the more I look at it, the more this is so clear that this is all in place to make DPS, well, a bit more effective, and probably to make you select DPS heroes instead of just playing tanks and supports, right? We all know about goats, we all know about that stuff. We did a massive video going into the discussion on like how the PTR changes may affect D.Va and all of that stuff, but in this video, I want to focus on DPS heroes, not just the heroes who get buffed, not just Reaper, because yeah, Reaper's buffed, and Reaper is pretty ridiculous on PTR right now. 50% lifesteal means Reaper can 1v1 a lot of people. He could 1v1 people before, but now it's like you just run. Like, you've got no chance. In this video, later on in this video, you'll see some footage from the PTR. This footage actually isn't from the PTR because it's nigh on impossible to get into the PTR, ladies and gentlemen, or to actually find a game. It took me like 25 minutes or something to find a game. Pretty sad. If only there was some sort of incentive for people to play on the PTR. Hey guys, hey, hello Jeff, please help us, please.
Small indie studio, right?
Anyway, what we want to do in this video is talk about DPS and talk about how there's a lot of things lining up here which just make DPS more effective. Like, it means if you're a tank, you're going to die faster, and yeah, right? So let's just go into detail on this. So, first thing I want to talk about is we'll leave the armor change till the end because we have discussed this a bit on the channel, but I actually want to talk about D.Va first. So, defense matrix, it's got more of a cooldown. So it's gone from 1 to 2 second cooldown, which isn't that massive. And like me and Josh discussed in a previous video, I don't think it's going to make much difference to the average player of Overwatch. At the super high level of the game, yeah, it will. But for you as like a DPS player anyway that had a lot of your stuff previously eaten by a D.Va, it's probably still going to get eaten. Yeah, sometimes, you know, it's going to be a bit easier to get the damage out, but it's still going to get eaten. So the D.Va change is... it kind of makes it easier for you to do more damage. Less of it will get eaten by D.Va because she can't just like react like that and instantly pop up the DM because, well, it's on a 2 second cooldown. So that's kind of like a really like minor thing. The thing with that is it's actually harder now for D.Va to eat things like Graviton Surge. It's still kind of hard to do that anyway, but still, overall, that's kind of like a little bit of a buff to any DPS which gets their stuff ate by D.Va, which is basically all the DPS. Then we've got Reaper, obviously. Now, like I said, Reaper, he's got the 50% lifesteal. He's super, super strong in 1v1 situations now. He melts tanks. Like, tanks cannot kill him. No tank can kill a Reaper in 1v1, basically, without support. Like, if you're a Roadhog, maybe you get the hook, you get the headshot combo, you kill him. But you've got to be lucky to do that, right? If you miss that and he starts doing damage to you, you will not do enough damage to him to kill him before he heals off the damage he's doing to you. And that's the same story for almost all of the tanks. Now, this is where Reaper should be. So in a way, Blizzard have actually just made Reaper... Reaper? He still suffers from the problem of actually getting into the fight, which means Reaper's got a really major weakness with being poked down from range. So if you're trying to move into the fight as Reaper, you often take a ton of damage and like get to the fight pretty much destroyed, as you will see a little bit later on in this video clip when I actually do have PTR footage. This was just some placement games on Absolute Unit, which is it's really weird because my setup has got some audio problems at the moment and it will not record the in-game voice, even though the in-game voice is set to use the channel it should be using. Like, I can hear it when I'm playing the game, but it's not recording it in the games. It's really weird. It's really annoying to me. It's probably a bit off-putting to you guys here seeing the thing and not actually hearing anybody's voice. Anyway, yeah, so Reaper's good, right? Reaper is good. He's much better than he was before at doing Reaper things, but still suffers with getting into the fight. Then the big thing, ladies and gentlemen, is the armor change. Now, this is the thing I kind of wanted to leave to the end. So, armor now is not as effective as it used to be before. Now, there is actually Brig, who I should probably talk about before we go into the armor. So, Brig now has a maximum duration of 30 seconds on her armor from Rally. That means you do not keep the armor on Rally. That means Brig cannot use Rally and then you keep the armor until somebody does enough damage to you to remove the armor. That armor only stays for 30 seconds. So that is actually a massively huge buff to DPS because it means you will be able to kill people 30 seconds after Brig has used Rally. That is massive. Like, that is honestly massive, right? Do not, like, hesitate, ladies and gentlemen. That's a massive change. Brig is pretty much getting slammed in this update. All right, so now we've gone into the beautiful soldier footage. This is actually on PTR. So you guys know I love a bit of soldier. Now, the armor changes are simply this. Damage reduction from armor has been reduced from -5 to -3. That means armor does not reduce as much damage. But the key thing to remember here is it's not all damage, right? and I'll read the dev comment off of this because it kind of explains it better than I could, but the reason why they've done this is this change reduces the damage reduction to 3 while still capping at half. This change will be mostly noticeable on heroes that fire quickly or in a burst of shots, such as shotguns, and which do more than 6 damage per shot. For example, Soldier 76's heavy pulse rifle will now do 16 damage per shot to armor, up from 14, an increase of 15%. Now, it gets a little bit confusing, and I've made videos covering the armor changes and all that stuff, but essentially what this means is, if you've got a rapid firing weapon, and it doesn't apply to, well, it does apply to all rapid firing weapons, but some are restricted to headshots only. So Tracer and Sombra, they will do a lot more damage on headshots to targets with armor. Body shots remain the same because of the amount of damage they do per shot anyway. Soldier, however, just does more damage. Like the dev comment says there, he does 14% more damage to armor when he's shooting armor. This is actually really good. You can kind of see it in this video here. So the enemy team, unfortunately, have only got a Hammond for me to shoot with armor. Now, I'm actually surprised they've got a tank anyway, because remember, this is PTR, so it gets a bit dodgy. But you can strip armor really, really quick. And then you can just start doing normal damage as you'd be doing anyway. But remember, armor reduces the amount of damage a target takes. So if you can remove the armor faster, well, then you will be doing more damage to the target, right? And obviously all the other damage sources from your team. This all means that super tank heavy comps, like GOATs, are susceptible now to DPS. Whereas before, they weren't really susceptible to DPS because DPS could not do enough damage to remove the armor before the supports re-healed the armor and also just re-healed the large health pools. Now, DPS strips armor faster, DPS then does damage to the target faster. This means tanks shouldn't be as effective when you take 3 of them and 3 supports without any DPS. Now, the big underlying issue here is DPS is part of the game, so it should be viable, right? Now, I'm not saying it's not viable. You can play DPS. Like there, you see Reaper just comes up to you and just does damage. I mean, okay, Tracer killed me, but Reaper just was shooting at me and just doing loads of damage to me, but also healing himself. He's a nightmare, Reaper is. But yeah, so most of the roster is DPS heroes, and the way the game is right now, you don't really need them. And it's kind of a bit crazy. Now, I know you guys have been playing in competitive, you've been playing in quick play and in arcade, and there's DPS everywhere, right? It's still the most commonly played type of hero, right? People are still going to play DPS. The big problem comes from when the other team just go, okay, let's play tanks. Now, this might not happen at every rank, but when it happens, it is super frustrating because it means that even if you're playing a DPS like a Genji, for example, you can't really do anything against a load of tanks and a massive health pool. You just have to wait for your blade and hope that you can somehow blade the enemy backline, maybe with a nano blade or something. So it gets a little bit like, it's not great. These changes, though, mean that DPS will do more damage to tanks. Now, Genji, who I just touched on there, isn't actually buffed in any of this. Like, Genji is not going to do more damage to armor or anything like that. But this should open the floodgates almost for more DPS to be played. So what will probably happen, now this is a bit of speculation because again, we need to get onto the live servers. All we've actually seen is a few pro pugs that were played from Blizzard's head office, which were kind of done as a bit of a joke by the pro. Like, they weren't, I guess, trying as hard as they typically would be. Although we learned a lot more from that than we ever would playing PTR. But just to go into a bit more speculation based off my experience playing on PTR and watching those VODs is, I feel like what will happen is tanks will become not as essential. Like, you still will have, like, you'll have a main tank and an off tank. Like, that's what you will have. But that means now you could have a DPS or maybe even 2 DPS and 2 supports. Maybe we're going to go to a 2-2-2 comp. And maybe that's just what Overwatch should be anyway. Maybe we're just going to see 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 support, and we just go for it. And it's a more fluid game. It's a more dynamic game, possibly. The problem with tanks is when you've got a lot of them together, they have got a massive health pool, they don't die, and fights last for a very long time. With DPS, there is the chance for the DPS player to maybe have a moment of like, I'm just going to kill all the enemy team or something crazy like that, which I know is not for everybody. This, by the way, is pretty funny. That Reaper. You cannot hear that as well. Reaper's teleport is so quiet now. I forgot how quiet that is. Look at him. He just popped up there and he's like, oh, look at this soldier. He's trying to rocket jump. I'm just going to kill him. Oh dear. But yeah, I think we're going to see more DPS, right, as a result of this. So it means when you reduce the number of tanks, heroes like your Genji start getting played more. Now, there's another hero, and I guess the last hero I want to talk about in this video, and it's Tracer. Now, Tracer doesn't have a buff to body shots, but she has a buff to headshots. So Tracer's basically going to do about 27% more damage on headshot. It's either 27, 28, something like that. I forget. I'm too lazy to check. But she does a lot more damage on headshots. So on tanks, she can rip them down if she's got the aim. Way better than she can currently on the live servers. Now, the other thing to remember here with Tracer is Brigitte stops Tracer being played. If you guys play Tracer and there's a brig on the enemy team, you should swap playing Tracer on live right now. You should go, all right, I'm just going to pick something else. Like, pick something to maybe kill the brig, right? Pick something which isn't going to be in range of the brig. Maybe you go for a Farah or something like that instead of staying... Oh, actually, on live, you probably just go for a tank, right? You go for, like, I don't know, a Roadhog, a Hammond, whatever. You don't want to play the Tracer into the brig. It's a suicide sentence. Like, you're just going to die. Well, it's suicide sentence. It's a death sentence, but you are committing suicide in a way because you just have to change. And that's bad, right? That's really bad for the game. So now, with Brig not being as good with her ultimate, with Brig having the damage removed from a shield bash in the last patch, she is actually not that strong as she used to be before, but I think she'll still get played. But here's the kicker, right? It means Tracer gets played more. So this means Tracer comes back into the game because Brig isn't as popular as she was before. Now, this opens up a lot of different comps, not just by bringing Tracer back into the game, but making the game, it puts it into a position where you don't have to have certain must-pick heroes. Now, the big issue with all of this is the meta isn't defined right yet. And what will happen is there will be a certain team comp you will roll, or there will be a certain hero you will want. I think Anna is really strong, so everybody's probably going to want an Anna on their team. But right now, it doesn't matter if it's a Moira or a Mercy to some extent, you've still got that main support. So you're still okay. You've still got the character which pumps out a lot of healing, right? So that's nice and that's fluid. So in a way, they kind of have fixed supports. DPS were kind of useless if they came against tank-heavy comps. Blizzard are clearly trying to address them versus tanks, which is what this armor change is all about. But basically what this will mean is Overwatch will become a slightly faster game. And also, we got totally C9 there, by the way. Overwatch will become a much faster game, and maybe that'll be better for the game. I think it will. I think it will make the game faster. It'll make it more dynamic. But you guys remember, I do like playing DPS heroes, but I also play tanks the most. So I kind of come from both camps here. You guys let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I've been Stylosa, and this is Unit Lost. If you guys enjoyed the video, then like the video. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and follow me on Discord, which is @Stylosa. And I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. Toodaloo.